But do come up to the stage. The topic for today is Wild World. It's a definitive guide to understanding and hence conserving some of the most spectacular mountain mammals. The interlocutor for today is Sarah Jacob. Over to you all.
Sorry, just a minute. Well, as we wait for Sarah, I just want to say that it's such an honor to be here with Dr. Ranjit Singh. I mean, all of us who have seen tigers or gone to tiger parks, I think we owe it to Dr. Ranjit Singh for all the efforts that he and all of them made at the time to create all these sanctuaries and, the wildlife laws as they are. Thank you, Gargi. So good morning, everyone, to the first session of day 2. And Khushwant Singh was very passionate about the environment and conservation, so how can we not have a session with environmental authors? We are always short on time at these sessions, so I'm going to quickly start with Dr. Ranjit Singh. Gargi's touched upon this in her book. The fact is that when you think of wildlife in India, you always think of the big 5. And predominantly you think of the tiger because it's so majestic. But there are other animals and species and birds in Indian wildlife. So, sir, first, why and how did you pick, why did you choose to profile and focus on mountain mammals in this book? I know it's your 4th book, but still.
Firstly, I'd like to thank the host for having invited me and having given me this opportunity of meeting all of you. And I'd like to mention here that when Mr. Khushwant Singh was the editor of the weekly, I have written articles on wildlife in the 1970s. Anyway, coming back to your question, I have been very fortunate that I was exposed at a very young age to wild animals, wildlife, and wildlife management or conservation. Rather early in life, I love mountains, but I've never climbed a mountain for the sake of climbing a mountain. I've climbed mountains to see animals. In 1956, I went to Dachigam. It was just 18 years after the last village had been removed from Dachigam. Dachigam stands for Dutch Igam, 10 villages. And it was just fortuitous that 100 years ago, the then Maharaja of Kashmir, Maharaja Pratap Singh, had to have greater access to water for the growing population of Srinagar, and the water of Dal Lake and of the Jhelum is, of course, not usable. So the villages had to be evicted from Dachigam to provide the water from Harwan to Srinagar. And he started the process. His successor, Maharaja Hari Singh, the father of Dr. Karan Singh, and the man who signed the instrument of accession, which is the only legal document you have over Kashmir, really, the instrument of accession, he moved the last village out, the year I was born in 1938. I went there 18 years of life, and it was mind-boggling. For once, and we see the process the other way around, and if I may quote, what belongeth to nature had been returned unto nature. And though, and I've said this before, the mountain ecology takes much longer power of recovery. It was unbelievable what had happened. And of all my travels, all over the mountain areas of the world, apart from the Caucasus of Russia and Azerbaijan, I have never seen mountain scenery so spectacular, so serene, so grand as Upper Dachigam. So if that could happen, why could not other areas be also? You see, you cannot keep human beings as anthropological exhibits in their own areas. They have to be shifted out. So that has always, and we have removed villages out. But coming back to the mountains, 2 years after that, I went and walked around for a month in Ladakh and walked all the way from Leh to Sokar and back, and going into all the places. Walked and rode. My brother was there. A very distinguished colleague was also there. And it in a way changed my mind, and Ladakh became a third home. And it will remain a third home of my life till I die. And it's very interesting now that you talk about the thing. You see, we have, and this is very sad, we do not have, here is a country, in India is a paradox, if I may continue a little, that it is one of the easiest countries in the world to protect nature, but we are passive conservationists. We do not kill, but we do not object to others killing, really, except for a few communities, like the missionaries. Thank God, bless them. And we are vegetarians, which is not the case elsewhere, especially in Africa. And therefore, it's much easier, provided there is political support. Without political support, and I've said so in my third book, the few things that are lacking, the few things I couldn't do, and the few things that we need most. And without political, it's very interesting in this country that all the parks and sanctuaries, at least during my second tenure as Director of Wildlife of India, I counted, 86% are the hunting reserves of the Maharajas and of the British. So that legacy, they protected animals and wildlife. They had to shoot those tigers and to shoot those leopards and lions and whatever else they had to protect the prey base, and to protect the entire gamut, you have to protect an area. The habitat is more important than the area, because you can have the habitat without the animals. You cannot have a wild animals without the habitat. And today, I'm sorry to say, what we are seeing is large safari parks and zoos coming up. And you would be interested to know, or surprised to know, that, and it's a so-called national secret, that the budget of one Kevadia zoo is more than the annual budget of the entire forest department of Gujarat, with lions included. Is that nature conservation? But that, I leave it to you to decide. The thing is, we go to a park or a sanctuary either as a picnic, or, if I may say so rather crassly, to ogle at animals, not to have communion with nature. If there are people going around saying, sighting hui, sighting hui. If they've seen the tiger, they've seen everything. If they have not seen the tiger, they may have seen 10,000 other animals. And I have gone round with the chief secretary, and I've shown him 8 species and about 7,000 heads of animal men. Ranjit, बहुत ही अच्छा रहा, लेकिन शेर नहीं दिखा. बस हो गया कल्याण. So this is it. And my wife always says I shouldn't use this word, but I will use it, mega mammal myopia. That is what we suffer from. So, we only go to see things. So, and we are denying ourselves. And then I will come to, if I may, and then leave it. She also blamed me, I talk too much. Anyway, just see what we have.
Yeah.
And we do not know it in this country. I have dealt with this. As I said, it's been a love labor all through. And there is another thing there. Today, I do not go to my beloved parks. I do not go to my second home also, Kana. I would like my ashes to go to Kana, but I won't like to go there. See that I see people jabbering away, taking silly selfies with tigers, instead of going and watching and enjoying and imbibing what you see. No. So there, you climb the mountains, you see the animals. It's exhilarating. It is intoxicating. It is Lebensraum, living space, miles and miles, and you don't see human beings. You have nature, you have wilderness. What value wilderness? So, that is the kind of thing, that great exhilaration of being up there and seeing these magnificent animals. But coming to the magnificence of the animals, and there are no mountain range like the Himalayas. But the Himalayas, up above, are uninhabitable. It's too high. Permanent snow. But it happens to be at the junction of two very important biogeographic, zoogeographic regions, the Indo-Malayan and the Palearctic. And that fusion, the Trans-Himalaya and the Himalaya, there is no place like Ladakh in the whole world. I have dealt with 119 taxa, species and subspecies. 86 found in Asia. Only 4 found in the whole of Africa. Only 4. Only 2 found in the whole of South America. The Andes is the longest mountain chain in the world, over 8,500 running kilometers from one end of the Cape to the other. 2 species only. Only 2 species in the whole of the Andes. The shortest of the great mountain ranges of the world are the Himalayas, and as I said, some of it is 6 between the 2. 4 in Africa, 2 in Asia. I've seen 6 in one day of 14 hours of walking and riding in one nala of Ladakh in Changchenmo. And there were 2 I never even saw, the Tibetan lynx and the snow leopard. 6. 8 in one nala, 6 in the 2 large continents of the world. This is what we have. And we do not know what even they look like. And they're dramatic. And spectacular. The only thing is you can't drive up to them in your car. You have to only do with these 2 feet. So what? If you go up there, you will be able to probably, it's a love labor. And if you go there, it changes one's life. And
it's clearly a labor of love, and thank you for archiving all of this. Future generations will be forever indebted. Gargi, your book also speaks about this dichotomy, this catch-22 as we call it, this myopia, where you talk about the fact that the tiger is so magnificent that the reality is that's what tourists come to see, and that's where the largest number of funds go in conservation. So how would you, you talk about, in your book, you say, rather vexingly, you say that, there's more to a safari than the tiger. What, expand on that?
Right. So just as Dr. Ranjitsinh said, that when you go to a tiger park or any park in the country, there's just so much to see. There's so many different species of birds that one can see. There's so many signs of animals, even of the tiger, a pug mark or, scratchings elsewhere. And yes, in a lot of these parks, we're too driven by tiger sighting and "Are aaj kuch nahi dikha," as Dr. Ranjitsinh said. But there's so much, and we have such a wealth of forests and wildlife in this country. And this is something, I'm from NDTV, and Sarah used to be a colleague of mine earlier. And at NDTV, we've always tried to also cover environment, cover various aspects of environment. And it's I think, the most important thing today, especially when we look at the future generations, these parks that were initially protected by the Rajas and Nawabs as their hunting grounds, then later became protected sanctuaries and tiger reserves. They are our protection also against the vagaries of the weather now that we've already seen extreme, weather happening, extreme, rain and flooding, etc., the pollution. We only have these forests to actually protect us from so much of that. So thanks to the animals that were protected, thanks to the tiger that was protected, that so much more of our natural wealth has got protected. And I think that's something that we must really, really appreciate and continue to protect. Unfortunately, I think the media no longer is as activist as they should be in terms of, calling out threats to nature, be it from various aspects, from what we call development, but actually it involves cutting down our forests or creating dams or, creating power plants or, be it power projects, etc. So yes, I think this is something all of us just need to be a little alert about. So while we talk about tigers and animals and of course the mountains and everything else, it's also, we're saving ourselves and saving so much for the future generation. So that's something that I try to talk about in my book. And thanks to, as I said, people like Dr. Ranjitsinh and all of them in the past, who in the 70s took the decision, Indira Gandhi, to create Project Tiger and protect all these beautiful parks that we all now enjoy.
Dr. Ranjitsinh, you, in your foreword, George Scaler, who's your mentor, he says that wildlife conservation is actually people management. What do you mean by that? What did he mean by that?
Of course, it's people management in a democracy like ours, where, incidentally, democracy means votes. And the next election to a politician is more important than anything else in the world. And did any political party come out with any any item of conservation, even potable water, in their election manifestos? No. It doesn't get votes. That's why it has to come from the highest authority who is interested in conservation, nature conservation. Then it percolates down. And this has been the story, unfortunately. But coming to the point that you had raised and Gargi mentioned, it was very obvious to me and to others that nature will survive only in this country. Nature, not just animals, only in effectively managed national parks and sanctuaries. And therefore, I made it a life mission to establish as many as I could, directly when I was Forest Secretary, and indirectly through others, by influencing the Chief Wildlife Wardens. Every time I would meet them when I was Director of Wildlife in the 2 stints I had, I would tell them, isko sanctuary bana do, isko national park upgrade kar do, ye bana do. And then they would come back, and then you carrot and rod kind of a thing. If you will do it, we'll support you. We'll give you funds from the center. And it happened. And these will be the only places where your national natural heritage will survive. I'm quite clear about it. And who can say that the national natural heritage is a whit less important than other great heritages, man-made heritages, including architecture, culture, religion, music, everything else. They are the repositories, the last havens of hope. And they are islands surrounded by, to use the cliche, seas of humanity, and getting more and more isolated. And when these poor devils come out, because they have to move out, they come in human conflict, and that is where man management comes in. You cannot, you see, we have had a very good symbiosis with nature, but in your primitive stage of marginal existence. As Gandhiji has said, that there is everything in nature for the need of everybody. There is nothing in nature for the greed of anybody. Today, we not only need for ourselves, we are taking resources to sell. That cannot be sustainable. And of course, now, in the words of development, your national parks are also being, and other areas are being diverted. And I won't go into that. But, so, one is, how do you manage man-animal conflict? How do you give compensation? And quickly, how do you, and that was a scheme that I started as Director of Wildlife, and I learnt it from my mama, my maternal uncle, the Maraval of Dungarpur, who was the first person to reintroduce the tiger. They got extinct because in his minority, my maternal grandfather passed away. And he brought back the tiger. And he's written me another thing. He said the people were mine, the tigers were mine. So I had to work out a system. And he worked out. In this area is the tiger area. Please don't go and graze. If you go and graze and the tiger kills your animals, I'll get nothing. But if the tiger goes out and kills you, you will get full compensation in a day. I started the same scheme. But unfortunately it doesn't work because there are kickbacks there. People don't get money for 6 months. Who can wait? And so they put poison. In one kill, lions are gregarious. Fortunately, tigers and leopards are not. So you can kill only one leopard and one tiger. But 8 lions have been found dead over one poison kill. And now poisoning is taking place, but the government hides the fact. Anyway, so that is man-animal conflict. One is that कि भाई यहाँ human habitation नहीं होना चाहिए यहाँ से. The other thing which I have never been able to do is, you see, you plant sugarcane right outside a tiger reserve or an area where wild boar and elephants. I mean, it's like showing a candy to a child and say, "तुम नहीं खा सकते इसको." They'll come out and they'll eat. So, is there no way whereby agriculture can develop alternate cropping, which would be as remunerative as what is practiced and not be attractive to the wild animals? The black buck, on which I did my PhD, doesn't touch certain animal species. It doesn't touch mirchi, doesn't touch so many other species, but it will never leave jowar or thing. So there are ways, but we are not applying science. That could reduce it too. But coming back to what Gargi mentioned about the importance of the greatest importance to human and livelihood is the supply of potable water, the second most important article in nature after oxygen, potable water. During that my stint in the 80s, I counted that there were 480 plus perennial streams which were coming out of national parks and sanctuaries. When we made Palamau a national park, when we made Palamau a national park, I wish we had done it in other cases, there was a very fine DFO who took account of the water, and that Palamau is a rain shadow area, which now Jharkhand, but in those days Bihar, and which used to suffer regularly from droughts. And it was suffering from a drought when we made that tiger reserve. He took a thing and he divided the streams into 4 categories. Those that stopped flowing at the end of September, those that stopped flowing at the end of December, those that stopped flowing at the end of March, and those that were perennial. And they found that within 3 years of stoppage of grazing and of cutting and human ingress, The streams which were totally monsoonal, September ending, continued till October, December. The December ones went on till March, and the March ones became perennial. That was what was giving to the people of Jharkhand and of India. That was more important than the 6 desert tigers that were there in that river, that Palomar sanctuary. Now I love tigers. So, this is what it is. And in the mountains, coming back to mountains, all your streams come from the mountains. We use the tiger to save more important than the tiger. As the member secretary of the thing, when we started project, I was the full member secretary before my dear colleague, the late KLSF took over. He took it over on April Fool's Day of 1950. I told him, don't take it on April 1. Yeah, ek din pehle le lo, ek din nahi. Oh, April Fool's Day he took over, I remember. But those few months, we selected 9. We selected areas which had not necessarily had the largest number of tigers, but which could be upgraded and made into a better parks. It's from, as they say, from level 2-1 to level 1-2, and level 3 to level 2, and that way. All over, in different habitats, to save the different types of topographies of the tiger. And the same thing could be done for the snow leopard, to save the mountain fauna and the potential of the water. You're getting all your streams, from the Ganga to the Jamna to the Ghagra, all of them come from the Himalayas. And the present Forest Conservation Act says that it will not apply anywhere within 100 kilometers of thing. One is fighting in the court, I hope we win, to say it's the worst thing that has happened. But I mean, we've used the animals, because in this country, icons matter. Under the umbrella of the tiger, we saved something far more important than the tiger. Under the umbrella of the dolphin, we saved the river systems. We made it into the thing. Under the umbrella of the snow leopard, I started the snow leopard project, which was stopped, which started again. So you use animals like you use deities to save the thing. And some of the best areas that survive now are around.
And from the 9 parks that they began, today we have, what, 53, 54 tiger parks today? I mean, that's incredible across the country.
55.
And as Dr. Ranjitsinh said, it's under the protection of the tiger. There are so many species, so much forest wealth that we've saved from where our rivers spring, from where we get clean air. But I just want to take another view of this, aspect of tiger, being so tiger-centric. End of the day, India, the fact that you can see tigers in so many parts of the country, it is our soft power. Tigers, I've traveled to other countries, I've traveled to Russia as well. I cannot tell you what it's like over there. The tiger is a rarity, and in India, we have such a bounty, and people come from all over the world to see the tiger. So it's really a symbol. It's a great tourism tool. It's a great, yoga in India, tigers in India, because children all over the world, they may be so far removed from India, from forests, from tigers, from the jungle story, but if you ask them, what's your favorite animal? A child sitting in Sweden will be like, tiger. And where do you see tigers? Only in India. So I think it's been an incredible,
in the wild.
Something that we have inherited thanks to their generation, and something that we must continue to protect and, take forward because of everything else. I mean, the forests as well as the symbol of the tiger. It's pretty amazing to see that, that anywhere in the world, people from all over just come to India to see the tigers, and then, whatever else they may learn.
Talking about tourism, I know you've read Dr. Ranjitsingh's book, the chapter on the silverback gorillas in Rwanda. He says that in 2019, some $27 million tourists spent to see these silverback gorillas, which is money, of course, that goes to the government and goes to the reserve. Yet at the same time, these gorillas are also at risk from human contagions, from getting contagions from human pathogens, even COVID. So Gargi, you've mentioned this in your book. Now, Gargi's book, on the surface, is a romance novel set in a safari between a Bollywood star and a TV journalist and environmental reporter, but there are many layers in it, and one of them is this.
It's not based on me, okay? It's no romance happening with any Bollywood person.
What is your stand on conservation and the relationship between conservation and tourism then?
So yes, and I know Dr. Ranjitsinh also has his views on this, but I think it's a tool to use also to protect our parks, because Ranthambore and sir, even Bandhavgarh, Kanha, etc. They're parks that are very visited by tourists, and yes, we must make more of an effort to educate them when they go there, and I think the responsibility on the forest department, on the guides, but the parks that have, it's a conservation tool because you have more eyes on the park. So a Ranthambore, कुछ भी हो जाता है वहाँ पे, one little thing goes wrong and everybody, media is talking about it because it's a very, high profile park because of its visits. Whereas you have like parks, you have Shimli Pal, or you have in Bihar, you have that Valmiki Park, etc., which hardly get visited. So we have no idea what's going on. And unfortunately, sometimes the forest department, while they do an incredible job, which is not appreciated enough, they just have a lathi and they walk through these forests which have tigers and rhinos and elephants, etc. But sometimes there's a lot of, the timber mafia, there's other mafia, there's poaching that is going on. And when there is tourism and more eyes and attention on the park is when you realize this is happening. Because we went to shoot in Bihar in Valmiki, and we didn't see any animal for a while, and then we just saw one, I can't remember, some deer or something, and it looked at us, and it was so startled, it just ran away. And we could hear it running for quite some time, which means that there are poachers there, which is why that instinct, when you see a human, you just run because you're afraid. Whereas you can go to Kanha, Bandhavgarh, Ranthambore, and as much as we, chest beat over, oh, so many jeeps are there and crowding the tiger, they don't care because I think a lot of them just grow up with this. And in some areas, because we're not even allowed to go to all parts of the park. There's just some tourist areas that are open to us. So the tigers just see you as this, as in the jeep is just a shape, and I think they've grown up with that. So so there are different aspects to tourism. Yes, we need to be more responsible. I think the hotels also need to be more responsible around tiger reserves and other parks, and be it in the mountains as well, the resorts.
I was just going to say that Gargi walks the talk because in her book, she also includes all of this basics, what we would consider basics. So people who haven't been to safaris, how to behave, how not to step out of the jeep. And I think that's also some training that comes as being a reporter, where you have to make your report interesting while, sharing information or being informative and educated. But since we touched on the silverback gorillas, Dr. Ranjitsinh, I want to ask you, there's this one time where you seem to have acted out of character as a devout environmentalist and conservationist.
Yes.
So if you can tell us a little bit about this, share with us your, about how when you went to see the silverback, how old were you?
This was just 10 years ago, well past my prime.
So post-70, where you convince the guide to allow him to be part of his troop to go hike, trek, not an easy trek, to go and see the silverback gorillas. And then what happened?
No, I hid my age. I lied. You see that you pay $500 to go and see gorillas for 2 hours, and he starts counting the moment you reach there, and he sees them. When we went early in the morning at dawn, before dawn, either you go high or you go low, lowland area, mountain gorilla, but at 2 levels. So I wanted to go to higher level, but I hid my age. I said I was 60 plus, but I was over 70, 75 or something. But yeah, it was about 10 years ago. And so we went up. And there was another, I must say this, there was a woman from South Africa who was wheezing away, and then she collapsed more or less and said, Efisema, she wanted to die there. And he says, if I die there, I want to see gorilla before I die. Please don't take me down, bury me here. But we gradually went up, and she made it, thank God. So we were there, and here were these gorillas. It's very interesting. Now I'm taking too much time. You see, the gorillas and the chimpanzees are the closest to us. They are primate apes, but we are a human primate, but they are apes. Anyway, and they are very close to us. And these characteristics are so particularly amongst chimpanzees, but anyway, the gorillas. The paterfamilias, silverback, lay down, and he sleeps like this on the ground, flat out. And the mothers come, and they're afraid of leaving the little ones because of leopards. So anyway, the moment they leave them, they don't play amongst themselves as children do. They ran to the old man. And they were all over him. It was so endearing to see these little things going over the father and playing with him, pulling his hair and all that, and fellow just hugging them. And then I realized why my grandchildren would run to me like that. And hug me. So anyway, so all this was going on, and then the mothers would call them back to feed them. And then as they would come down, going between the old man and the mothers, who were in one group, resting, an old grandmother parked herself there and would grab them and just hug them. She was past breeding age, but she was probably the grandmother of these children, of these little kids, of these bachas. And she would hug them and they would screech. And the mother would come rudely and grab away this thing from the old hag, poor thing, sorry to use the word, and take it away like this. So she sat forlornly. 6 times I saw that happen at this distance, backwards and forwards. And then ultimately she got fed up, and she looked forlornly at the 25 of us who were lined up like that. And then she just fixed her eyes on me and came rushing to me. And she is half the size of the male, but is still 200 kilos. And I sort of braced myself sideways to get knocked down. I had a tripod and I had a camera, and I thought she'll bowl me over. But she came there, looked up with her liquid eyes, gently touched me on the shoulder and turned back to go, as if to say, you are the person. It's been a defining moment of my life.
Beautiful.
And as she turned away, I touched her on the shoulder. It was instinctive. I couldn't help it. I had to respond. She was so sweet. And I had been sympathizing and empathizing with her. Poor thing, she was, her grandchildren being snatched away from her. I don't know what my wife would think if my daughters took away those bachas from her. So anyway, so as she turned, she took no notice. The guard comes and, sir, you're not allowed to touch the gorillas. I said, sir, I'm sorry, I do apologize. Of course one should touch, but I just couldn't help it.
Instinctive.
Instinctive. And then the silly, impish sense of humor I have, I said, in this longish life I have had females making passes at me, but I've been too shy to respond. This is my last chance. And everybody laughed, and the guide said this and went away.
All right, so the book is full of little anecdotes like this, but I want to ask perhaps the audience first. At some point he says that if he were in a jungle and he were unarmed, the one animal he would not like to meet in that situation would be, any guesses? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know this, but a
Bear,
black
yeah.
bear. Could you quickly tell us why? And then I'm going to pull out a paragraph meanwhile.
Yes, the black bear. It's the most feared animal in the mountains. The sloth bear is pretty bad, partly because they can't see too well. They depend on their nose. They can smell you, but they can't see you, and it's blurry. And they're not very intelligent. They can't,
So very fierce.
And they believe that offense is the best part of defense at times.
But Dr. Ranjitsinh, I want you to share one story with everyone, and just going, since we have him here and he's been such a part of India's conservation story. At the start, when they were deciding the national animal, you wanted the lion to be the national animal. So if you could tell just that little anecdote, and he had to run up against Dr. Karan Singh, and they had a little bit of a, Karan Singh was the environment minister.
No,
but
the lion was already there. It was decided by the then government, Jawaharlal Nehru. And that
yes.
was because,
They wanted to change
the
it.
lion was in the Ashokan pillar.
Hmm.
And the Ashokan pillar is our emblem, the three-faced lion. And therefore the lion became the thing, and then lion, the king of the jungle and all that jargon. So anyway, and it was rare and all that. So Dr. Karan Singh wanted, when he was member of he was the chairman of the Indian Board for Wildlife, and I was member secretary then. And the Project Tiger was started. So he said, Ranjit, we must change over to the thing. Now, I have an antiquarian mind. And I don't like things to be changed. I believe in the old Kikuyu saying that do not destroy anything old unless you can replace it with something of value. Well, of course, the tiger is of great value. but कुछ मैंने resist किया. So then he was very, very good to me. But one day he lost his cool and said, Ranjit, you are resisting, you are not wanting the land to be changed because you come from the land to the line. I was born 100 kilometers from the Gir forest, which is what Wakaner is, Saurashtra. But I have a rather hot temper like a thing, so I retorted back, sir, by that token I can even say that you are partial to the tiger because your revered father, Uncle Hari Singh ji, used to call you Tiger Karan Singh. He laughed and didn't hold it against me, but he was always right. It should always have been the tiger.
So I want to just quickly read this one paragraph. You say the predicament of the Asiatic black bear is a classic example of the dilemma of a large, belligerent, but non-charismatic animal. It raises two fundamental conservation issues. For centuries, the bear has been harassed, hunted, and driven to high remote habitats, a few of which have been designated as protected areas. If the bear emerges from these last refuges to damage the ever-advancing possessions of man, the latter perhaps have a right to defend themselves. But if man intrudes upon the last surviving abodes of the bear, does the bear become the culprit and a nuisance if it retaliates? Secondly, the only current economic value of the black bear lies in its carcass. Does that justify depriving it of its rights to live? Will man only permit those creatures to survive which are of monetary or aesthetic value to them alive?
It's a very fundamental question. I don't like to go into politics, but the present government, 8 or 10 years ago, started talking about the value of animals. And to my horror, I felt that those animals, the tiger, of course, has the greatest value. But do other creatures who are valueless to man don't have a status in this country, a country of Gautam Buddha and Mahatma Gandhi? Huh? So I created a shindy about it, and luckily they withdrew. Now, this is it. But let me say this. In many of the countries, including Pakistan, the only way to save the animals is to give it to the warlords the power of protecting them. These animals, the Marco Polo sheep, in Tajikistan, on the Pamirs, are there because there is a value to them. The area is tribal, and these, I call them warlords, but they are chieftains. And the same thing with the Markhor. They control the tribals, prevent them from hunting, and they get a very large cut of the bounty that is there on the license. I paid $5,000 just to go and photograph them. But those who shoot them pay $1 lakh. to go and shoot one animal, markhor or ovis pola. And that is the only way to protect them. So be it. If that is the only way to protect them. अरे बाबा 5 मारेंगे तो 50 बचाएंगे, 500 बचाएंगे. That's more important. So that is one way of monetary value. But you see, what value a bear? A bear who is a thing, and he goes and raids crops, he goes and does things. Incidentally, I've been charged by all kinds of animals, elephants and rhinos and tigers and wounded ones. But I have come closest to probably death is after a markhor and after a black bear. In Dashigam, I saw crows, and I thought there was a leopard kill. Yes, there was a leopard kill, because the crows were not going down. So I was watching the crows, and the crows have, ravens up there. They are ravens. And the ravens, when they don't come down onto the kill, means that the predator is there, and they were cawing away and looking in one direction. And one knows enough that there is a kill, and they're looking at the animal. So I and a thing with nothing else but a little stick and binoculars, we went there to see. And I parting things, there were these brambles and apricots and things, wild. And
The bear came chasing.
Yeah, and I was right, and he was right too, the chap behind me, the guard. There was this kill of the Hangul hind, killed and opened out expertly by the leopard. The leopard opens out the stomach and pulls out. He doesn't eat the offal inside. दूर जाके रखता है. And there it was. So we were looking at it, and suddenly this man grabs me by the shoulder, back and says, Apat. Apat means bear. And there I look, and the biggest black bear I ever saw was on one side. He was eating the wretched offal that had been pulled out separately and was lying on one side. I was looking at the kill. And he ran. The moment he ran, this thing came on to us. So when he came on, I ran in a different direction. I mean, so that there was a 50% chance of either he getting me or getting the load.
Basically, you have to run faster than the other person.
So anyway, I was young then, I was 20. So after a while, after running a little, I think, mere piche aa raha, uske piche. At the moment I tripped and fell over a log, which I hadn't seen stupidly, and cut a lip. So I lay there, the worst 5 or 6 minutes of my life, and this bear went hoo, 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 hoo all over the place, and then he disappeared. And I came back with a very big cut lip. And the doctor said, in Srinagar will put stitches. I said, nahi, rehne do. I still have that mark. It's a nice moment of a lifetime, thanks to the bear.
I don't know when the bell is going to ring, but since I'm a TV journalist, so I should ask something controversial and sunny to live up to the stereotype. So quickly, I just want to get you originally thought of the concept of the Project Cheetah. How do you think, where do you stand on that today, and how will history judge India and those behind this project?
Sarah, you couldn't help yourself, could you?
Cheetah on the mountains. Anyway, thank you. Look, the reputation of India is at stake. The cheetah may have come on my evidence to the Supreme Court, but the cheetah would not have come to India had it not been for the personal interest of the Prime Minister. When I went to see him about the great Indian bastard, when he was Chief Minister of Gujarat, when I'd finished about the bastard, and he said he would do this, that, the other, I got up to go. And he said, he got up to, and he said in Gujarati, Mare to Gujarat ma cheeto joinshi. How the devil did he know that I was after cheetahs too? But this is the kind of feedback he has from his flunkies. So I sat down and I said, I am responsible for creating a sanctuary in the thing for Khadi in Kutch, but now it's finished. There's no prey left there. And it'll take time. But then I never forgot that this man wants the cheetah. So when the cheetah came, we were able to sell it across to the PMO. And he took it on. And it is because the interest of the government that they came, really. And that they are still being there. Now, you see, we bureaucrats, we think we know everything. We have such a sense of pride. We don't want to be told that we think. We take umbrage in admitting that we do not know. That sense of ahamkar, ego. That's terrible. But anyway, there it is. And we are wonderful learners, but we have to learn it first. The most successful project in India and probably in Asia and the world is not the Project Tiger, but Project Crocodile, which I started in 1974. In my first stint. There were then only 60 breeding pairs of the Ghadial left. And we didn't even know the difference between a saltwater crocodile and a freshwater mugger. But we got a foreigner, and we learned in 5 years, and we became the experts. And we have stopped breeding them. It's much easier with the crocodile, forget it. The same thing could be done for the cheetah. We do not know how to handle the cheetah. And the Supreme Court appointed a committee under my chairmanship to do it. If they don't want to listen to me and my committee, forget it. But get at least the South African experts who have given you the cheetah. They'll tell you what. We have lost 13. All of them have been lost on avoidable deaths. Not a single one killed by a man, not a single one accidentally got into a trap, not a single one killed by a tiger or a leopard. They have died with maggots in their collars in captivity. How the devil? We do not know today how to handle it. And once we know it, we'll become experts. And then, before I die, I want to see the Indian expertise go to Iran to say the Iranian cheetah should have come into India. The sanctions against Iran cannot prevent India from sending our experts to save the rarest animal, the Asiatic cheetah. There are only 11 or 12 left in the whole of the world. The Asiatic cheetah, which we had an agreement with to get once upon a time. It didn't happen. Okay, it didn't happen. But we can go and save it. And we can, but before that, we must know how to handle our own babies.
Well, we're completely out of time, but of course, Dr. Ranjitsinh is here, Gargi is here. You can catch up with him, like so much information up there. And of course, please notice his tie.
Yes, the cheetah tie.
You can take a close-up.
No, it's not a cheetah tie. It's a snow leopard tie.
It's a snow leopard tie.
Okay.
Birthday present for my wife. Birthday present for my wife, 50 years ago. Now she doesn't give me any birthday present except for a hug. Old wine.